We're going to start, unfortunately, with Donald Trump. I gave all of you listeners a 72-hour respite from his voice, but the respite is over. Here he is last night with Sean Hannity on what he thought about the January 6th pardons.
Some of those people with the police, true, but they were very minor incidents, okay? You know, they get built up by that couple of fake guys that are on CNN all the time.
Nobody watches.
They were very minor incidents.
I mean, my favorite part of that was Sean Hannity got mad. He was watching CNN.
Nobody watches that.
Very minor injuries. I mean, you know, it's like too trite at this point to do the like. Imagine if Barack Obama talked about the very minor injuries that cops suffered at the hands of a, you know, I don't know, violent mob of Black Panthers or something. But
the new Black Panther Party. That's an old one. Yeah.
But what was your? Is there anything? Is there any? Will there be any punishment for that? This is just whatever at this point.
Dude, what are we even? Yeah, it's like to me, it's we're at this point where it's like I'm not like surprised he said this stuff. You know, I even think he probably believes some of it. He's like convinced himself of it. Of course, these are not minor injuries. I mean, officers, you know, committed suicide after what happened. It was an incredible trauma, physical and emotional. We talked to one who was talking about 7 straight hours of just being bombarded, worse than anything he had dealt with when he was serving overseas. And it's like, to trivialize that, of course, is outrageous. But then at the same time, it's just, that's Trump, right? Like, it's all self-serving. It's all designed to rewrite history. You know, they say to the victor go the spoils, and you get to write the history. And I think that's what he's doing here. And, you know, Hannity's like, Hannity's kind of funny. I think Hannity's more interesting here, but not because he was mocking CNN's audience. But there's another part where they were talking about, you know, I think Trump was like, you know, they were just there to protest the vote and they have the right to protest the vote. And Hannity kind of sheepishly realizes that this is ridiculous to say something like that. He's like, well, you know, they don't really have the right to like storm the Capitol, right? It's like, and it's just got to be like, whoa, I think he took it too far. So, I mean,
our man Sergeant Cannell sent you, right? He texted you the pictures of his.
Yeah. Sergeant Cannell sent me pictures, and you look at his feet and his hands, and they're, you know, battered, they're inflamed, they're bruised, they're stitched up. You know, he's had pictures where the red arrow is pointing at him. It's like, imagine going through that for 7 straight hours where you just have wave after wave of people coming at you with, you know, projectiles and flag poles and, you know, beams and they're just throwing them at you. And you're just like in what he called combat for 7 straight hours. And to be like, oh, well, you know, just minor stuff that Jake Tapper is, you know, trying to take advantage of and make into a sob story. It's like, come on, dude. Just...
It's a piece of shit.
It's just
stupid. Did Trump think Trump's ever been punched or punched anybody? I guess he was. I guess he did, and I guess he was in WWE. Yeah, WWE.
I mean, that's not real, obviously, but you know, who cares? Like, who gives a shit if he's been punched or not?
I mean,
even if you've never been punched, yeah. But even if you've never been punched during a fight, like, it doesn't take much to realize that that's not, you know, what happened on January 6th is bullshit, and you should never have that happen. It's not minor.
I guess there was the ear injury. Trump,
he's been shot. Let's be clear about that. He has been shot. Yes.
I mean, there's some shrapnel.
Oh Jesus, Tim! Not this again. Good God.
The air looks fully recovered to me.
Why do I do this podcast? It's just trouble.
I'm just saying. If you compare it to what Sergeant Cannell went through, it was kind of graze. He also had some issues with President Biden, and you'll be surprised that that his revenge against President Biden is not going to be governing well. Let's listen.
He pardoned everybody, but he didn't pardon himself. And remember this, those people that he pardoned are now mandated, because they got a pardon, to testify, and they can't take the fifth.
Should Congress investigate that?
I think we'll let Congress decide.
Would you want the Attorney General to investigate it?
You know, I was always against that with presidents and Hillary Clinton. I could have had Hillary Clinton a big number done on her.
Have you changed your mind?
And I didn't want to. Well, I went through 4 years of hell. by this scum that we had to deal with. I went through 4 years of hell. I spent millions of dollars in legal fees, and I won. But I did it the hard way. It's really hard to say that they shouldn't have to go through it also. It is very hard to say that.
Yeah, remember like 2 minutes ago when Pam Bondi was going through a confirmation hearing over in the Senate, and people were like, Pam, what are you going to do if the president directs you to do something inappropriately? She's like, that's a hypothetical. Donald Trump would never do that.
Would never.
Here he is on Fox 2 days later saying, yeah, I think that the attorney general should look into former President Biden, apparently.
Apparently. You know, it's ironic because it was his lawyers who successfully argued to the Supreme Court that you get broad immunity while acting as president from these types of things. So I think Biden probably will be in the clear. They also didn't try to impeach Biden. James Comer did. Didn't really work out. But look, you know what? I mean, again, I try to distinguish between what's real and what's not. And I'm trying to like be true to the idea that we should react to what's real and what's not. Obviously this is not yet real, but if it could be real, and it would look ridiculous, just as Joe Biden's pardons look ridiculous. In terms of the spending money that he had to spend on legal fees, yes, he did. Trump did have to spend a lot on legal fees. He also basically raised a lot of that money from donors, and then he like sold some fucking shit cryptocurrency and made 20 times that.
Americans paid. Americans paid his legal fees. The forgotten man that was not invited.
They all gave to the PAC, who then covered the legal fees. So he didn't really spend that much money. And then of course he made like 30 billion or whatever the fuck it is on meme coins. And maybe that's what Biden should do. Honestly, launch him or any of these like people who are going to be in Dragnet, like launch some shitty meme coins to raise some cash for the lawyers. Like,
I don't think that anybody's going to buy Joe Biden's meme coin.
A Biden meme coin?
I don't know. Maybe a couple blue MAGA maybe influencers. Is JoJo from Jura still on the Biden train? I don't think that that's going to be a very good selling meme coin. Back to the drawing board on Biden fundraising ideas for his legal fees. I will say this. I hear you on the.
Wait, wait, sorry. Let's not go back to drawing board. Let's think of some other idea. Biden should sell guitars or Bibles.
I think that he's going to have to outsource this to somebody else. Yeah, I don't know that there's a huge groundswell of people wanting to throw him cash right now. Because of the presidential immunity, you are correct that probably not a lot here, and because of the fact that Biden didn't break any laws. So I don't think that he should be quaking in his night shoes in Rehoboth Beach. But
the idea that this hasn't been investigated before. I mean, he's going to talk about what the business dealings that Hunter had in Ukraine and China. It's like this has been, subject of an immense amount of scrutiny. I mean, Trump basically tried to, get Zelensky to look into it by withholding aid, right? Like this is all this stuff has been litigated. So are we just going to do this for the next 4 years? Probably.
But here's what worries me, though. Is Trump specifically mentions that Biden gave preemptive pardons to people, and and he kind of implies that lets them off the hook, right? In this answer, there's a longer answer that he goes deeper into this, and Hannity eventually tries to interrupt and say, "My producers want me to talk about the economy," and Trump's like, "I don't care about that. I'm going to keep ranting about this." Like literally, maybe we'll just put that little bite in post. But so if Biden's probably fine. And it seems that Trump was not focused on the preemptive pardons. Right. There's another category of people, though. Yeah. I think about like the Cassidy Hutchinsons of the world. Right. People that were in there that testified to the January 6th committee, who were not included in the preemptive pardons, who there is personal animus towards. This sounded like a man that wanted other people to go through hell. I guess this is my point. This sounded like a man who wanted other people to go through the supposed hell that he went through. And I find it hard to believe that they won't put a couple people through hell.
Yes, to that question, I agree. And I don't think it's just Trump who feels this way. I think anyone who was brought in before the January 6th committee, aides to Trump, lower level staffers who were subpoenaed, whose records were accessed, you talk to them, and I have. They feel like they were subject to a politically oriented prosecution, and that they didn't deserve to have all their records, all their time, all their legal fees taken over by the committee. And so they want to exact a bit of revenge. And I think yesterday, the big news yesterday wasn't whatever Trump said to Hannity. It was Mike Johnson basically giving the go-ahead for this new select committee to investigate what preceded January 6th and what came after January 6th, which is basically just Barry Loudermilk's going to basically take, Cassidy Hutchinson, anyone else who was involved in the January 6th committee and testify before it, make them come up, make them give records, make them sit for testimony, make them come to hearings. And that is that's a real burden. It's a real stress, and it costs money. You can't just do it. You can't just be like, oh, okay, I'm going to go through. You hire a lawyer to prepare for that stuff. It costs money. Right. This is, and it's tit for tat. It is. Right.
And they're going to try to find ways that they supposedly perjured themselves, like look for anything to go after them for. And I think that's something that's very alarming. Anyway, so we'll continue to monitor that. I want to play one more bit from Trump. This was him talking about California. There's this, like, even among some like quasi-normal people in the anti world, there's like this sense like Trump really did have some points about that he was on this with the fires, with the raking and the water coming down from the north. And I honestly, like, not even MAGA people. There have been people that are like, you got to hand it to Trump on this one. I don't think you have to hand it to Trump on this one. He kind of expanded on what he wants to do with regards to the fires in this interview. Let's listen.
I don't think we should give California anything until they let water flow down into their
It's from the north to the south.
This is a political thing. I don't know what it is. They talk about the Delta smelt. It's a little tiny fish like this. They say it's an endangered species. Well, how is it endangered? No wonder it's endangered. It's not getting any water. How do you, if you have a fish and you're stopping the water, isn't that going to hurt the fish?
I'm glad we can use the R word again. Again, we had Elizabeth Weil on this podcast. There are definitely things that California did with forest management that was wrong. Like this is not the issue. Like water coming from the north to the south, the smelt not having enough water. Like this is not the issue.
Yeah, but you should be honest, Tim, that you are a big fan of the Delta smelt, and you're incredibly biased in this.
I do want to protect the smelts. You
won't shut up about the smelt, your favorite fish.
But this is insane, though. Again, he's threatening, and you got into a little tiff with some people about this, about when you.
This. I love this one because after the fire started breaking out, it was very clear that this was going to be a huge tragedy and a multi-billion-dollar catastrophe that would require the federal government to help out. I had the audacity. I mean, I'm so stupid. I had the audacity to note that Trump has been in the past reluctant to give California aid because he believes it's a blue state that voted against him and they don't deserve it. And people were like, "Oh, how dare you point that out in this moment?" That's ridiculous. And now here we are, where he's refusing to give California aid. Unless they do some weird water policy that he thinks would have potentially prevented this. I mean, it's like it's absurd, obviously, because one, we don't condition aid, never have. This would be new policy, and it's easy to see how this can get into a bad place fairly quickly for a lot of red states down the road. Two, anyone who you talk to said the issue is not the fact that water's not flowing more from the north to the south. It's a combination of climate issues and the inability to stop a massive expanding fire when there's 80-mile-per-hour winds.
Even if he was right, it is insane to go on Fox News and say we're not going to give them aid.
No, and it's, of course, yes, they can manage fires better, but when you have 80 to 100-mile-per-hour winds in completely dry conditions, a manageable fire quickly becomes an unmanageable fire, and nothing that California could have done at that point. There's nothing they could have done at that point. And so, then the choice becomes, do you want to give them the help they need to recover or not? And it seems like he doesn't.
Yeah, and nor the Speaker of the House also. So I think this is going to be something that is going to end up becoming a massive fight that we're going to be monitoring.